Have you ever stopped to wonder about the invisible mechanics behind how we actually perceive leadership? I mean, why is it that some incredibly sharp, highly capable professionals, they can step into a room and just immediately face friction, while others seem to effortlessly command both respect and loyalty? Well, today we're going to unpack exactly that. We're looking at this fascinating framework and leadership perception that literally affects every pitch, every promotion, and every single team dynamic. Psychologists call it the dual mandate. So get ready, because understanding these hidden forces might completely change how you approach your next big meeting. So why do some highly capable leaders totally fail to win your trust? You know, we all know someone exactly like this. They've got the flawless resume, they have all the data, they're undeniably smart, and yet people just kind of don't want to follow them. They come across as authoritative figures for sure, but not necessarily as true leaders. And in fact, in some cases, these extremely smart and capable people are possibly seen as just experts rather than leaders at all. And why is that? Well, it's because being smart and capable is actually only half of the equation when it comes to human psychology. And women in leadership positions over-index on this expertise as a source of power when there is so much more to lean on. So to really answer my question, we have to look at some foundational psychological research by Susan Fiske. She hit the nail on the head with this quote: competence often buys status, warmth often buys trust and acceptance. And honestly, that's the whole core of our explainer today. You see, competence is usually your safest first signal. It tells people you're effective. It says, I know what I'm doing. But without warmth, that very same competence can easily read as cold, arrogant, or even untrustworthy. All right, so to help us break down these complex dynamics without getting overwhelmed, here is the roadmap that I'll follow today. We're going to cover the dual mandate, the two forces, the gender asymmetry, how it actually shows up in reality, contextual rules, and building followership. So let's just dive right in. Section 1. This is the dual mandate, breaking down leadership perception. To understand the underlying mechanics of how we actually perceive leaders, we have to look at role-based expectations. Because, you know, we don't judge leaders in a vacuum. We judge them against this mental template that we all carry about how we think the leaders should behave. And that brings us to role congruity theory. There is a massive meta-analysis by researchers Eagly, Corral, and Makehani who looked exactly at this. Overall, they found that men and women were equally effective as leaders. But the catch is in the perceived congruity. They found people are heavily penalized when their leadership style clashes with expected gender norms. So if a leadership role is seen as highly masculine, or if a leader behaves in a way that violates what society expects from their gender, well, their effectiveness, or especially their effect, not the actual effectiveness, the effectiveness rating takes a major hit. These expectations are basically acting like an invisible filter on everything they do. So let's look at the two forces, competence versus warmth. You know, the invisible filter I just talked about, it relies heavily on two specific forces. Let's deconstruct them a bit. First up, competence. Competence buys you status and authority. Think of it as your entry ticket. It proves you can actually do the job. But, and that's a big but, a 2016 workplace study revealed something absolutely crucial. It showed that it was the warmth that one ascribes to a supervisor, not their confidence, that actually predicted an employee's organizational commitment, which is their intention of staying with the organization. Warmth is what fulfills an employee's need for autonomy and satisfaction. Basically, competence gets you the fancy title, but warmth gets you the dedicated team. So the trick here is finding the exact right sequence. And that was highlighted by a 2024 intergroup trust paper. Warmth promotes trust, but really only when the target is already seen as competent. If you just have warmth without the competence, you look super pleasant, but no one's going to take your authority seriously. On the flip side, competence without warmth makes you look highly capable, but incredibly hard to trust. You literally have to establish the capability first and then layer on the warmth to solidify that trust. So let's take a look at the gender asymmetry that actually exists in the reality in which we operate. We have to look at how these rules actually apply in our real world, because it is definitely not an even playing field. Let's look at the sheer contrast in the data regarding how these forces apply asymmetrically. In a 2015 experimental study by Fudman on relational authenticity, which is basically just academic speak for being yourself as a leader, they showed a stark difference. For men, being authentic clearly improved their likability. But for women, that exact same authentic style actually carried a competence penalty. It was being read through a completely different lens of gender stereotypes. On top of that, a 2023 study by Chalmers and Sutton found that women in authority are disproportionately punished for lacking warmth. Men are often granted the latitude to lead with competence alone. Women, however, are generally expected to clear both hurdles, and they face a much steeper penalty if they're perceived as cold. And this asymmetry heavily influences the way we actually speak. Think about someone presenting to a room full of executives using words like may instead of will, or saying it could be the case as compared to that is absolutely the case. Early research by Robin Lakoff framed this hedging as a marker of uncertainty or insecurity. But contemporary linguists like Janet Holmes, they completely reframed this, actually scratch that. It's more than a reframe. It's an evolution. Hedging is now understood as a linguistic precision and a high social intelligence. It helps manage interpersonal dynamics. And why is that necessary, especially for women in leadership? Because research by Bruskell and Allman, they demonstrate that identical assertive behavior is judged much more harshly in women than in men. So softening your language, that isn't insecurity at all. It's a highly calibrated, intelligent response to asymmetric social risks. Because context is king, so let's look at the context and how that changes the rules. The required balance between competence and warmth isn't entirely static either. It shifts dramatically depending on your immediate goal. So in individual goal settings, think like high accountability spaces, like a tense investor pitch, a job interview, or even a corporate turnaround. Competence absolutely must dominate. These are historically masculine type settings where you need people to see you as decisive and capable first. However, when we look at relationship-oriented settings like employee retention, coaching, or building a good team climate, warmth is no longer just an optional polish. It literally becomes your core leadership capital. A really great example of this context shift is found in a study from 2022 on crowdfunding. In this highly resource-driven setting, women entrepreneurs benefited a ton from being seen as highly competent. Competence is simply the cleanest signal when you are directly asking people for money. But that competence only worked because it was mediated by what researchers call cognition-based trust, meaning they had to add just enough warmth so that their competence translated into a trustworthy investment rather than just a feeling like distant, cold intelligence. So let's look at this last section of how do you then build long-term followership? Because what does this all mean to us? How do we take all of this rich psychological data and actually turn it into an actionable strategy? First, remember the sequence. Competence opens the door, but warmth is what keeps people in the room with you. Once you've established that you can do the job, you have to deliberately signal warmth, and you don't do this by being overly emotional or anything. You do it through signaling respect, active listening, and fairness. And finally, you always have to read the room. Are you in a high-stakes pitch where competence needs to lead the charge? Or are you leading a major team meeting where people really need to feel psychologically safe to be able to have raise dissent and have those critical conversations? Are you trying to lead a town hall where restructuring is happening and stakes are really high? Or are you in a one-on-one coaching conversation with one of your direct reports? You absolutely have to adapt your strategy of leading with competence or leading with warmth, depending on the situation you're in and the goal that you have in front of you. This brings me to my final thought for today. Let me ask you, are you leading just to dominate, or are you truly trying to build a lasting following? It's a really delicate balance, an invisible dual mandate that completely dictates how the world sees you. Competence is most likely going to get you the promotion, most likely going to get you legitimate power through titles and positions of power. But warmth is what will make you a true leader. Take a second to evaluate your own style today and think about the situations where you need to really focus on strategically and deliberately deciding on that executive sequence. Or will you lead with competence, or will you lead with warmth? What is better aligned with your goal? And hey, if you are a woman in leadership and you want to access similar videos or insights, please go ahead and scan the QR code right there on the screen to sign up for a monthly email that over time helps you build your leadership leverage. Thank you so much for joining me on this video, and I'll catch you next time.